Hello and welcome. Today we're going to talk about TEDx speakers, and really TEDx is really about thought leadership. It's about getting your thought leadership out there. It's about creating a relationship with the audience that you are talking to. It's helping distill an idea that you have that will be a life hack for your audience. But there's a real kind of way of creating a TEDx story. And today I want to talk you through the way that we help our clients create their impactful TEDx story so that they are remembered for the right reason and so that their idea lives on beyond the time when they finished speaking. So what is really, really important when you're putting your TED talk, your TED idea together? Well, the very, very important part is you and your story. There have been some incredible stories out there. There have been some incredible presentations. But unless you are present in your story, that presentation could be given by pretty much anybody. So you need to be part of your story. You are also providing a particular perspective on a specific story. So for instance, one of my TEDx speakers is a woman of colour. And so she's speaking in terms of a woman of colour growing up in the UK, being part of business life in the UK, and her specific experience of what that's like. And then she's extrapolating that idea out to the community at large. And it's a really, really interesting story. But it's very important that it's come from her specific perspective and that it is her story. We have another speaker who is bringing some idea, which is an academic idea, and really trying to make that a much more digestible idea about diversity and the need for difference, and actually how difference really impacts society and is a necessary part of society. And we want to avoid homogenization as much as possible. So bringing that idea from an academic perspective into a wider cultural perspective is very important. Now, his particular perspective is from his story, from his experience of life and diversity. So your story, your perspective is ever so important in the TED talk. If it's not there, if your perspective is not there, it flattens out the story, it loses credibility, and it doesn't engage the audience in quite the same way. We also need your expertise in the story. Very important that you are seen as a credible source of this information, of this idea from your audience. So how did you get from where you were to where you are? How did this idea come to you? How have you lived this idea? What difference has it made to your life? What difference may it have made to your clients' lives? How did you become the expert you are? What were all the traps that you fell into? What were the mistakes that you made? Essentially, your audience wants to understand from your content that you are a person of expertise, that you are someone that they can rely on. Now, they're going to do that in two ways. They're going to hear it in your content, but they're also going to see it from the way that you use your body. So how you turn up, how you speak, how you hold your body, how you breathe, how you use intonation and gesture, how you move around that stage is going to give them a sense of their expertise. There's a very strong correlation between how we show up to speak and what our audience perceive in terms of our credibility, our expertise. Your expertise is also shown in the action that you've taken. So what is it that you've done that has created your idea? What action have you taken that means your audience can really see that you have walked your talk, that you live your talk, that it is part of who you've become? Because if we don't see you having taken that action, you become a little bit less credible as far as the audience is concerned. Then the final piece of your thought leadership is really the kind of what if. What if you did this? What would change in your life if you could do this, or you could think that, or you could feel the other? We want to extrapolate beyond our story and our experience and create a life hack for the audience that is listening. What if they took on this idea? How could their lives change? How could they impact other people that are around them? This is really the kind of you, me, and the ripple part of your story. You have done this thing. You experienced life in this way. You made some changes. You had an idea. You thought about some things. You realized something, and you've distilled this down into your one crystal idea that really is the backbone of your conversation. And now you're saying to the audience, well, look, I've done the work. I'm going to pass the baton to you. What if you did this in your lives? How would it change for you? How would it change for the people that you interact with? How would it change your community at large? And if we want to go really big, how might it change the world if we all started doing this particular thing? So we want to see your action, and we want to create inspiration in the audience that is listening to take the action that you've taken, to take a similar action, to get the results that you've got in a much shorter time frame. So whenever we're speaking to any kinds of audiences and we are developing our pieces of thought leadership, we really want to see your story. How did you get here? What happened to you? Why do you have this particular perspective, this particular world view? And we want to see that you're a credible source. So how have you got to where you are? What have you learned along the way? What did you do to get to this idea, this sense of knowing that you have, this need to share this idea with this particular audience? And we really want to see the what if. What if the audience took on your idea? What would happen? How would the idea continue to live beyond the moment when you finish speaking? And if we have those three elements, if we have your story, your credibility in terms of what you've done, as well as the way you turn up and the way that you speak and the way that you tell your story, and the what if, then you have an incredibly powerful piece of thought leadership. If one of those pieces is missing, then it's a bit like having a three-legged stool. The stool doesn't really work very well. The story kind of falls over at a certain point. If we're not credible, but we're saying, this is my story, and what if you did this? What if you made those changes? But it's not clear that we've made the changes, then our credibility is lost, and that stool becomes wobbly, not very comfortable to sit on. If we have an incredible story and we tell it very credibly, but we're not very clear about the what if the audience did something new, did something different? If we're not clear about that, then the speech, the conversation, the idea kind of dies as soon as you finish speaking. It doesn't live on, it doesn't have a life of its own beyond the moment that you stop speaking. Again, that stool doesn't work very well. If you are an incredibly credible speaker and you have got great credentials, you've done all these amazing things, you've worked for these amazing companies, and you're saying, well, what if you do that? But there's no you in it, there's no story, then your audience don't care. And if they don't care, they're not going to take action. They're going to look at your what if, and they're going to do the thing that we all do. And I know that I've done it and I've seen other people do it. We kind of go, well, it's all right for you because you're you've done this, you had that privilege, you've got that experience. So of course you're going to be successful. It's not the same for me. So it's ever so important those three elements are present in some form. They don't all have to be equally present. They can be in different elements, different amounts in the story, but they all need to be there for it really to be thought leadership. And if they're not there, then it's not really thought leadership. It's an expert presentation. And there's a big difference between an expert presentation and thought leadership. I hope that today's film has been really helpful for you. If you're interested in knowing more about how to construct a TED Talk, we have lots of different videos on our YouTube channel, all about how to create impressive presentations, speeches, and to really show up authentically as yourself. If you are interested in finding out about your own personal executive presence, and that is this credibility piece, that's you being able to stand up on stage or in a meeting room or in a one-to-one conversation and be fully physically, vocally, mentally present to that scenario, then you can take our scorecard. Our scorecard is a self-assessment card. You can find out how well you are showing up in terms of executive presence. The link is below. And if you're finding this really useful, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Take care, and I will speak to you very soon. Bye for now.